Hey folks, so I wanted to talk about why I sold my X100v. And there are a number of reasons. And I think the first one was, ever since I got an X-T5, which is a more photocentric camera than the X-T4, I've simply not used the X100v. It's kind of sat collecting dust for a couple of months now. And although it's an amazing camera and beautiful to look at, it's whether you can justify having it sitting around, because you can get the same images from an X-T5, I would argue, and you can change the lenses. And I think we need to go into the reasons why I bought the camera. And I wanted a lightweight street camera a couple of years ago, and I have enjoyed using it, and it's very unobtrusive, and people don't notice that it's actually a digital camera. They think it's a film camera, but I get the same using the X-T5. It's more compact than the X-T4, and I chose the silver one because I wanted it to look more like a film camera, so when I did street shooting, it became unobtrusive. And I think the X-T5 is that. And another thing that I realised was that in the 2 years I've owned the camera, and to be fair, I've been ill part of this time, so there is that, but I've only taken 1,200 shots on it, which is not a lot for such an expensive camera. And I've been enjoying getting out walking every day for the last month and a half. As I've improved and recovered, if you look past my old videos, you'll see that I've been recovering from serious illness, but I'm getting much better now. And the X-T5's always been with me because I've got some fantastic lenses. You'll note I did the review on the Sigma 18-50 f2.8. What a lens! And I don't have this flexibility of changing lenses on the X100v. There are accessories for it that allow different focal lengths, but at the end of the day, for the X-Trans 4 sensor, I've got an X-T4 if I want to use that, and I can change lenses. And then the announcement of the Lumix S5 Mark II came along. Now, the Lumix is a camera, the S5, I own the original S5 and have done for the last 18 months. It hasn't seen much use, although it's been done a lot of video, and it came on more hikes with me. I used to love taking on hikes because it is arguably a better camera at landscape photography than the Fuji cameras are. I've taken some fantastic images with it. It's great in low light, and it was good for video, but it's Achilles heel with the autofocus. And I thought, well, do I upgrade for the features that I always thought were missing from the S5 and use the X100v to fund that purchase, because I didn't want to spend a truckload of money that I didn't have. So when I put the two cameras together and the trade-in deal, there was pretty much enough to get more or less, bar the deposit of 200 quid, a swap. Trading in the S5 and the X100v for an S5 Mark II. And we're recording this on the S5 Mark II now. Now, one of the things I loved about Fuji, and still do this with film simulations, and as you know, I publish a lot of film simulations, and I'm planning to do more, and I've done some for the Lumix, because of all the cameras I've used, the Lumix is similar with its film profiles for JPEGs to the X100v and other Fuji cameras. And also you've got the input from Leica, and I thought, do I ditch full frame, or do I sort of, no, do I say I've got an X-T5, let's trim down what we've got for Fuji and focus in on just the X-T5 and start building up the full frame stuff, because I love the S5 despite being the bigger camera. It's a proper old school DSLR feel to it, which I really enjoy using. So I got an X5 Mark II, and one of the things I've really liked about it, which kind of harks back to what I enjoyed so much about Fuji, is that they've really changed the way the film simulations go. So you may have heard of these things called LUTs. Now a LUT is a lookup table, and it's usually used in cinematography to apply a look to filming. So when you film, you would film in log or a flat profile. So we're filming this in not a flat profile, but we're filming in something called Rec. 709, I think. And then in fact, no, I wasn't in Rec. 709. I tried in Rec. 709, but the reds were too saturated. So I've gone to Cine D, which is the flat profile on Lumix cameras. And then I have applied a LUT in real time over the top of this. And you might think, well, that's all well and good, but they're not film simulations because that's video. And a lot of you guys enjoy the photography. I do as well. But it was a game changer when I found you could apply this to the photographs on the camera. The LUTs can be applied in real time to the photographs. And the next video I'm going to do a little bit in more depth. I'm hopefully going out this afternoon to do a bit of street photography. And I've got an Ilford HP4 LUT that I've got hold of. And I've worked out, by looking at some real images of it, HP4, what base profile to use, which I'll go into detail in the video I do as the next video, on the camera, to try and get it as close as possible to the film. And obviously I'm going to try and learn how to make LUTs as well, because you can make your own LUTs in Photoshop. And you can't, while you can make film simulation recipes, you're always based around the base recipe in the Fuji camera, which is the base film simulation and the constraints that you're placed under by, you know, what you can do with, say, the curves or the grain you can apply or the colour chrome effect. And while this is fantastic and great for people who just want to do that, and you can do this on the Lumix, of course, as well, because you could just get a ready-made LUT and then apply it in camera and play it with it the same way. But I could create my own LUTs and have them available in the future, maybe for people to download. Now you can do that with film simulations, but I think you just get a bit more latitude with a LUT, because it's like a physical thing you can put on the camera and you put it on a memory card and you can apply it. So this is kind of the reason behind why I sold the X100v. I didn't want a nice camera sitting there, and I do love the look of the X100v. It's a beautiful camera to look at. It's got that lovely optical viewfinder. It's tactile, but I got that tactile feeling of photography from the X-T5. And now I have to contemplate, as we'll wrap up this little talk, just to show you what I've been doing, because it's been a few weeks since I posted a video. I've been practicing my long exposures, and I'm going to go into that as well. I digress. But I've got the X-T4, and I'm like, I do like to have a second X-T body, and the X-T4 is video-centric. But the S5 II could work out really well as a video-centric camera, but obviously I can't swap my lenses onto it. Although I can use old Canon EF lenses with an adapter, maybe. That's a cheap way to get lenses. So I thought, do I sell the X-T4 as well in the future once I've had a time to think? And actually get the camera I probably should have done over the X100v, which is an X Pro 3. The X Pro 3 gives me all the advantages of an X100v, but with interchangeable lenses. And it's still pretty small, and it still gives you that even more film tactile feeling of being part of taking the photography with the optical viewfinder and all the things that I enjoyed about the X100v. And I think I would use it more because it's enough of a different experience but I can use all the lenses I enjoy having, whereas I did feel restricted with the 23mm lens. And I only started to feel restricted with the 23mm lens, and this goes back to what I did with my episodes with the COVID photographer, when I lost mobility. It really makes you think about how you do photography when you can't walk very far. And you get a lot of people who are fans of prime lenses, and I love prime lenses. We're filming this on a 50mm f1.8 prime lens. They're very sharp. But I've enjoyed having zoom lenses because I've struggled to get to places I would normally have been able to do easily. I'm getting better. And I think I will probably make more or less a full recovery in time, but it could be another couple of months, maybe another year. I still do have a few minor mobility issues. And a zoom lens gives me the ability to have more flexibility with cameras, and the X100v didn't do that for me. It was small and light, and it was easy to carry when I was struggling with weight, because I couldn't carry a lot. When I was, a year ago, I could walk 600 metres, and I took the X100v out. It was a super lightweight camera, but I have a Sony ZV-1 for that now, which is my go-to mini film camera, and it turned out to be, I never bought it for photography, but I used it for photography, and it was amazing. And you've seen I think you might have seen some of the shots I've done. I'll have to check to see if I did a video on that. I think I did a few cycling videos, but I'm going to do it more on the ZV-1 because it's got all the functionality of the X100v. It just is a plastic lump. But as a tiny little camera that's a surprising little package, it's really good and truly is pocketable. So I just wanted to go over the thought process I'd gone through of changing all the kit I've got, because often we get into this loop of buying new kit for the sake of it. And I think when I look back at the X100v, I did kind of partly buy it because I wanted a small street photography camera, but part of me did lust after the beautiful lines of the camera and the tactile nature of it. But then it surprised me when, once it's gone, I don't miss it as much because I've got the X-T5. And a bigger surprise, I've hit nearly 3,000 shots in 1 month of ownership of the X-T5. I have taken twice the number of shots on the X-T5 in a fraction, a 24th of the time, 1 month versus 24. And I couldn't justify having a camera that was nice to look at, but that I didn't use very often, or as often as I thought. And the time I've used the cameras is a bit muddied, because as I say, I couldn't do much for, out of the last 2 years, I was out of action for about 8 months of it. Only in the last few weeks have I started to really get my mobility back and be able to do things. So you're going to see a lot more videos on Lumix, I think, in the future. And certainly more videos with the X-T5. And as time goes by, as I get used to those cameras, I'm really going to consider whether the X-T4, which has got the X-Trans 4 sensor, and I like the look of that sensor, they're all different, the X-Trans sensors, whether I go, well, if I want the experience of the X100v but with interchangeable lenses, do I sell the X-T5, wait a bit until the X Pro prices come down, because I can kind of use the X-T4 like an X Pro by folding the screen in. And I'm going to see how I get on like that, because I love the tactile nature of photography. But I also like the technical side of it. So I've got quite a mix of cameras. And I hope that explains why I sold the X100v. The S5 Mark I wasn't a hard decision to sell, because it was a way of getting an extra lens too. So I got the kit with 2 lenses in. So I got the 20-60 Lumix lens again, but I got an f1.8 prime. And I thought, why not? Why not do that? So I did. And here you go. So we've recorded this in the S5 so you can see what it's like for film. The autofocus is a lot better as I'm sitting forward here, you see. And I've used it in low lights. It's great. I can't look at the images yet, so JPEG only on it because it's so new that Lightroom doesn't support it. So hence the next video is going to be sort of saying what I can do with JPEGs. It's a nice overcast day, cold, so I think going up to a nearby village, market town called Morpeth, and maybe having a little walk around and do some monochrome shots will be a good do-it-in-camera thing with one of the film simulations and see how close we can actually get to the film Ilford, because there's very little latitude I have in playing with these pictures in post. When the JPEGs, you've got to get it right in camera. So that's my reasoning, and it streamlines the cameras I've got. I love the X-T5. It's replaced the X100v, and I think it'll replace the X-T4, and I think I might, if I don't use the X-T4, possibly look to selling that and getting an X Pro, and that will give me just a slightly more compact vintage street shooter, because the vintage look of the camera for a street photography does help. It certainly does help, because people just think you shoot on a street camera. And talking about vintage cameras, the film from the ST705, I think that's the model number of the film camera I've got, is getting developed as we speak. I have no idea whether they're going to come out. I didn't want to release the videos for that, and there's going to be 2 of them, until I'd got the pictures. So that's something else that's going to be up and coming. So you could say this is a bit of a channel update, a bit of a mix of a video, but the main focus is why I sold the X100v. And you're also going to be seeing a bit more film photography, I think. And I might learn how to develop stuff. And this is kind of how I want to develop the channel. But the illness I had has profoundly changed the way I've had to approach photography. And like they say, people who go on about prime lenses being wonderful and you should zoom with your feet. There's a lot of people out there can't zoom with their feet as easily. So don't knock having something like an X-T5 or an X Pro 3 with a zoom lens. And zoom with the lens, not with your feet. There's nothing wrong with it. You can just hear my cat there jumping up and down, by the way. Anyway, folks, thank you for listening. I hope this helps people in some way, this video, and lets them think about what cameras they've got and what they might like to sell. Anyway, I'll catch you all soon, and hopefully there'll be lots more interesting videos to watch coming soon, and I've hinted at what they are. And sorry it's taken so long to do this one, but I've just been busy the last few weeks. Quite busy. It's been about 3 weeks. But I'm going to get some lunch now and go off and do some street photography. See you later. Bye.